Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome to the Madqueen Show. I am your host, the Madqueen, and today we are here with our usual suspect, Save Sidian from the Triple S League.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Here in Spain, we usually don't celebrate Easter in a community way. You go on holidays, you go skiing you do holidays mostly. You don't gather with family, but in my case, it's my sister's birthday and we gathered all together. I ate too much. That's the reason why I went crazy and I couldn't sleep, and I started wondering that maybe today, that is April's Fool, we were going to see something from Zeta Project. We were going to see a prank regarding Cyberpunk 2077, because everything that they did so far are things that we cannot be sure if they are real or they are not real. Like the glitch in the presentation of the financial results for the fiscal year 2017. That was a glitch that said E3, or maybe it didn't say E3, maybe it said 3/4. We just don't know what is going on here. So, Sype, your opinion on that?
So, April Fools is always one of these things where it's like not everybody in the world understands what it is or even why people do it. And because, of course, it's a global community now for a lot of this stuff, you always get people who don't understand it and who get really annoyed and upset that it's actually a thing, because then they're like, why would big corporations lie on one day a year? It doesn't make sense. And they get really, pissy about it. And it's led to some really funny moments in the past.
I must say, regarding this, I must say that here in Spain, we have one of the most corrupt media of Europe. I don't know in the States, but there are studies that prove that Spain is the most corrupt media of Europe, or the second. And it's funny because in here is not April's Fool, it's in December, and it's called Innocence Day, and they make pranks, and then in the news, you hear pranks in the news, and I remember this time that I heard one of the talking heads of the news saying, yeah, this day of the year is the only day of the year that we can afford to say a little lie. And I was like, sure.
it's like, well, media, isn't that your job at this point? Like, seriously? It's kind of funny that they say that.
I never knew if the people of Network News 54 really believed in what they were saying, or they knew they were lying.
Yeah.
So, go on, please. I interrupted you.
So, some of the funnier stuff is been in like MMOs, because they're where you get this like really refinement of like the gaming community in the international sense. And so I remember in the early days of WoW, they used to pull a whole bunch of cool pranks, and there was the one prank that I remember the best is where they introduced a new character that you had an ability that permanently deleted your character, and it did basically like nothing. It deleted like a little tiny bit of mana from the enemy, and that's it. And everybody was like losing their minds on that, and like people were like theory crafting like designs around it, and it's like, guys, it's obviously it had a Guy Fawkes mask, for bloody sakes. It's just like, clearly this is a joke. But yeah. So it's kind of funny. I don't know if CDPR is gonna, like, they already did one thing so far today, and I don't know if they'll do more. It would be really funny if they did more, like, put up a new like trailer for a certain game coming out soon, and then the trailer was just like, please wait for, and then scribble out the date.
And then Rick Astley, you've been Rick and rolled.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Rick roll. Yeah.
Well, I was expecting something like I don't know, not. I was reading Twitter yesterday, and I remember a tweet from Michael, Legacy Killer, saying, please, all YouTubers that believe that it's funny to say gameplay leak of one of the video games that we are expecting, and then saying that it is a prank, this is not funny. This is not the kind of thing that I would expect from them. But I would expect something more funny, something like, I don't know, a netrunner interrupting the program, or something like that. Something in the universe of Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that would be funny if they could do that. But again, it's like how much do some people take this seriously, and I think some of the companies realize that, and they've like some of their jokes they've scaled back a little bit, whereas more companies are starting to do more jokes. Like DNA 23 and Me and Lexus is doing something today, which I think that's funny. Um,
Well,
but
wait
yeah,
a second, wait a second. Molson said, I don't think so. CTPR already tweeted something. They don't usually tweet more today. Well, first, if they do something, they are going to do it when Americans are active, which is around this time or later. And the second, it doesn't need to be on Twitter. It doesn't need to be on their accounts. It can be on whatever other YouTube channel, other news outlet, whatever the place. It doesn't have to be an original source, because actually, if it's an original source, then we know it's true. But
hmm
maybe we prepared something with someone. But yeah, all of this, obviously, just to make it absolutely clear, all of this is just a theory of mine. All right, it's a crazy theory of mine. I don't have any kind of inside information to believe that. I mean, I'm just crazy. That's all. That's all. Maybe Al Cunningham will do a beep to the Twitch account. Maybe she already did. Did you think about that?
I checked and I didn't see anything, but
Yeah,
see
only dog.
now I'm doubting that, and now I'm doubting it, right? So it's like, did I actually check it? Did I not? Uh,
Well, as I said before, it's just a theory of mine. I can absolutely be wrong. It's not something that I have any kind of proof. I sometimes make theories. I try to make it absolutely clear the difference between things that I say that are theories of mine, things that I say that are lore, that are official information, that are rumors, that are leaks. So everybody chooses what to believe. Because obviously the
mm,
theories of mine, I mean, it's not information, it's just theories of mine. Lore is lore, and leaks, well, need to be taken with a grain or a pinch of salt. And I try to make the difference with that. So yeah, there's no prime yet. Yet. The day is not yet over, but I believe they are. I was going to say they are out of the office at 6, but today is Sunday. Is it? Yeah, it's Sunday today.
yeah, it's Sunday, so that technically nobody should be in the office. Well, I mean, not technically, but usually so, unless they're paying overtime, which I mean, I guess is possible if they're doing a big crunch right now. So,
Well, I suppose they're on crunch. I mean, we are really close to E3, so I think it's safe to assume that they are already on crunch.
hmm and I wonder,
You wonder. I'm
uh,
so afraid of you wondering things.
yeah. Well, they so I double checked both the game and their CDBR channel, and they both there's nothing new on the game channel. There's only the one tweet that they've done so far on their CDPR channel. So
Well, I believe that the best place to start looking would be Gry Online.
they're now entertaining people who are applying to the position. Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh dear. What's
Yeah.
going on? That's on Twitter? That's on Twitter?
That's on Twitter. People are actually like replying and like saying that they're gonna apply for this job, and CDPR is now like encouraging them to apply for it. Well, I'm gonna have to apply to this later today.
Yes, but maybe when we answer, they are going to be tired of answering people. I was thinking about doing some joke this morning. Problem is that being a dog in Spanish is being someone really lazy, and I couldn't think of a joke that was similar.
Well, as long as you can identify your coworkers by smell, you should be able to do a good job. So,
Well, I'm sure I can identify people by smell, which I don't like because some people don't smell very well. I live in Barcelona.
see the thing.
I mean, you're from a place that is you're from a wasteland, but when you live in a city and you enter into the underground, the metro, the train, or whatever, yeah, you can identify people by smell.
Oh well,
And it's not,
yeah.
something. It's quite disgusting. Yeah. Aurora say, I couldn't trust any leaks on April 1st. A leak just happening to be exposed on a day of jokes is too convenient. Well, Aurora, I'm sorry to tell you, but we have a couple of leaks today for you. And we're going to repeat the same leaks tomorrow for you to make sure that this is no April's Fool joke. And we are going to release that on the date of today. Because first, I didn't know that today was April's Fool. In fact, I thought that was the 5th. I mean, I literally realized it was today because Michael tweeted so. Legacy tweeted so. And that's the only reason why I know that is today. I had all the information. Well, Saib and I had all the information ready for you. Saib also forgot to mention to me that today was April's Fool.
I forgot that it would be the 1st today. I thought it was the 30th today, and I kind of pooched my numbers. Yeah. I thought for sure it was not today. So, but turns out, I need to track my days a little bit better. So. So yeah, this is gonna be funny because if we're wrong, then we can just say it was an April Fool's Day joke.
No, I'm sorry, but if I'm wrong, I'm going to say, well, I'm wrong. I'm sorry, but I was wrong. Because I really hate that. I hate that. I'm so wrong. Yeah, but no, excuse. No, if you're wrong, you're wrong. I mean, you had the wrong information. I believe it's very important because when you have a YouTube channel, people tend to believe that you have bad faith. And when you make a mistake, that is something that you did completely on purpose and for the sake of the views. And probably no, you just got it wrong. And it is important. It is important that you acknowledge that, and not only for your viewers, that acknowledge that for yourself. Maybe because you're trusting a source that you shouldn't be trusting, and when you realize that the information is wrong, then it's like, I shouldn't trust this person again.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that I wouldn't do that for the views because that gets you in trouble and that gets people to make fun of you, which is not something that you want to have happen.
So yes, when we report leaks, we are 100% sure of what we are doing. The information has a very, very small percentage of probability to be wrong, because obviously if we didn't double check things, actually, if you've been following both our channels, the Triple S and I, for quite a while, we haven't been debunked in any single leak so far, in any of them. In fact, we thanks to the Triple S, I mean the medal goes for them in here, leaked the size of the map 2 months before that it was officially confirmed by CD Projekt, and we leaked about the mini game 8 months before that it was confirmed by CD Projekt. All the leaks that we've been saying so far have been confirmed, except a couple that we need the game to be confirmed. But yeah, we have a good record, we have a good track record so far. At the beginning, I believed that it was harder to believe in our leaks, but now that at this point, there are so many things that we said that have been confirmed officially, I believe that it's safe to assume that we don't invent things. And we don't for April's 1st, that's not professional.
And it's nice because, like, I mean, I don't mean to brag here, but it's nice that my leak about the character classes was correct, because that was like
yes, the leak about character classes, and that was
almost
funny.
A year ago.
That was more than a year ago, and also there was the trend was the opposite, that they were going to do like in The Witcher. That they were going to have a single character, and we were like, no, we're going to have character classes, just that we don't know yet which one of them. I mean, Mike Pondsmith said later when he confirmed this, that we were going to have all the character classes in the game. Then several months later, on 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, in the financial results for 2017, Adam Kicinski, the CEO of CD Projekt, said again that character classes, said officially, I mean really officially, that the character classes were going to be there, but we still don't know which one of them, because he never said officially that all of them. And he also said that we are going to have some surprises. I hope they are good surprises. Aurora, somehow a side topic. Would an anime short of Cyberpunk 2077 during or before its release be wanted by everyone, or is not needed? That's a funny question. In 1 month and a half, you will know why I'm laughing. I'm not going to say any more about that now because it's a surprise. If CDPR want to do a good job, Molson says, they will put all the type of classes playable, in my opinion. Well, the thing is that we have the classes of the 2020, then we have the classes of the the expansion for the fourth corporate war, which name I cannot think of, Shockwave, Firestorm Shockwave. The classes there, and we have the classes in the third, and the third is supposed to not be used for the most of it. Mike Pondsmith confirmed at earlier stages of production that the first edition was discontinued except for a couple of small things. So I don't believe that classes, neo corporations, and all this shit that they changed because, well, the third edition wasn't great. I'm sorry. All these things are not in the game. I am so happy for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to change the subject because this was a little something that we wanted to talk about. Sib and I, we are gathered here together to talk about E3. What can we expect of E3? And we came to know, thanks to an events organizing source at E3, that CD Projekt are going to have 3 sets of passes during E3 this year. Guess what that means?
In this particular case, what's inferred, and we have to kind of like assume what's meant by some of the data that we get. But in the security lingo, when it comes to like conventions and stuff, and I'm pretty familiar with how a lot of the conventions are run, and you are too. Is the way that it's stated is that they're going to be up on the stage 3 separate times during the week. So it looks like after, I mean, they're going to have their own presentation, and then they're going to be on stage for 2 more presentations. Which I don't. How many big consoles are there? How many big console companies are there? Is it 5? No, it's not 5. Not counting Nintendo, or is it? It's 2, isn't it?
You are not contemplating the option that one of these passes may be the CEO of CD Projekt, Martin Iwinski, going to the showcase of EA and showing them his middle finger like, fuck you, fuck microtransactions.
This is true. This could be this could be the thing. That could be it. Because he's basically already done that at this point several times, which is really funny.
Let me interrupt here for a second, Saib. Young Dro asks, how do you feel about players having a house, capsule hotel, shitty apartments, etc., depending on the classes, even though it's not always lore accurate? Well, I believe there is a misunderstanding here, because some time ago we did a stream when I talked about the housing things on Cyberpunk, and during the stream I was talking about exclusively about edge runners. And then people just took for granted that I mean all of the character classes of the game. And this is, I am sorry I didn't explain myself there, and I did a video after that called The People of Night City, and in there is explained who you are depending on where you live. And in there you're going to find all the options for housing. So look for that video, The People of Night City. And again, back to E3. So yes, apparently, if they don't show, he or they don't show the middle finger like they did before, we are talking about 2 other showcases with the presence of CD Projekt, which means the potential presence of Cyberpunk 2077, and let's not forget the other mysterious RPG they are planning to release before 2021. But by the way, we knew about this other project for quite a long time. But the thing is that they said a long ago, and this information was said before the huge delay of Cyberpunk, and people just believed that it wasn't true, and this wasn't going to happen in this century. So the new information is the fact that they are advancing with it, and they are planning on releasing it on 2021. We may know something about it on E3. I seriously doubt it, because I suppose that they don't want to outshine Cyberpunk with anything. So I think it wouldn't make sense that they introduce any other game than on E3. But yeah, 2 other showcases. So what other 2 places do you believe, Cyph, that would be very interesting to find Cyberpunk 2077 in?
Well, I think especially if they're making an announcement, then there's a couple of things that are automatically assumed, and that is how much the big consoles, Microsoft and Sony, love to show off their games that are coming out sometime soon. And they will show off literally almost anything. It's really funny. It doesn't matter like how close the game is to being like, completely removed from existence, aka scaled down, or if it's like 15 years out, like Kingdom Hearts 3. It doesn't matter. If they've got a trailer, they will get that person from that company to come up and talk about this game. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in what circumstance it is, even if they know that it's going to be like 15, 20 years out. They will talk about it. They will talk about it and they'll get it off. So looking at that, knowing that, it's a very safe bet to say, oh, well, I bet you if they're going to showcase Cyberpunk 2077 at this year's E3, and they're going to do it before the main events start, that there's a good chance that we're going to see it at some of these other conventions. Now, the only thing that's interesting here is that the Sony has moved theirs to a little bit earlier in the day on Sunday, so I'm not sure if that's going to affect something for what CDPR is planning on doing. So we'll have to see. This will be really interesting.
What did they move?
Soon Sony moved up their time schedule, I believe. Now this is not confirmed information. This is a leak. So because they haven't officially confirmed it, and it's not that much. It's like, I think it was like an hour or something like that. So yeah, it's just we'll keep our eye on it, and we'll keep on checking it out. But I mean, they still do stuff throughout the week too. So there's some
there are 2 things in here.
Possibilities.
Excuse me for interrupting you.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 things here. In first, Microsoft promised that they were going to do something huge for E3. Well, at first hand, it sounds like a typical attempt to hype people to watch the conference because something huge is going to be announced. I don't believe that they are going to put a new console on the market. I mean, the Scorpio. And I know it's called Xbox One X. I know that it's called like that. I hate this name. I rather calling it Scorpio because it's a badass name. So the Scorpio. After the Scorpio, I don't believe that they are going to introduce any other console in the market. As now, right now is the most powerful console on the market. But what is the flaw that the Scorpio has? The games. The games is the problem of the Scorpio, that they don't have games that take advantage of such power. Because, yeah, Madden, hello, Anthem, hello, and that's it. That's all that they had, the past edition, the past E3. And the rest of the games, they could have been played with a calculator for all people cared. I mean... So yes, one is what are they going to show? What are Microsoft going to show on E3? But then there is Sony, and in case you didn't know, there is one thing that Microsoft is doing that Sony is not doing, and they really need to catch up. And you were asking about that, and I'm talking about backward compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is This
Please
is
go
really,
on.
really big. Yeah. No. I'm just saying this is really big for PlayStation.
Yes,
Go on.
past week, it was update the U.S. patent of I was going to say Microsoft, excuse me, Sony, of Sony PlayStation for backward compatibility. This patent was originally filed 2 years before, 2 years after, excuse me, 2 years after the PlayStation 4 was out. So 2 weeks ago, it seems that they are investigating a new type of backward compatibility. And I must confess that I had 2 technicians explaining to me the process that PlayStation were following to have this ready, and I just understood the half, and I'm not able to repeat that, because yeah, it's very complicated for me. But this is big. Backward compatibility. This is something that people was requesting from Sony, and was one of the reasons why people liked Microsoft consoles better, because, well, even though they don't have new games to play, they have old games to play. Something is something.
Well, especially like this is really big, and it's something that they want to get a grasp on, and if they can get a grasp on it, then because more and more games are moving to live services, and so the sales that companies make from the same titles on a re-release from one generation to the next isn't actually that big. It's actually kind of small, and so that's something that a company can easily sacrifice if it means, lots of positive attention, lots of positive publicity.
Saib, let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'll let you go on. It's just I saw a comment that I'm a little shocked. Coriolanus Rex, if PlayStation releases a new PlayStation 4 that can play PS3 games, no, we're talking about the PlayStation 5 in here, not the 4. We're talking about PlayStation 5, because PlayStation 5 is around the corner. If you know how to add 2 and 2 together, you will know that latest date is November 2019. So it's around the corner, and in here we're talking about PlayStation 5. Please go on.
And I will add to this, you cannot it's not a simple thing to make the current PS4s play PS3 games. It's very, very difficult, because the engine and the OS, the operating system, is hard coded for a lot of this kind of stuff, and it's really difficult to get in there. It would basically be like upgrading your Windows from one thing to the next and hoping that everything continues to run, which doesn't happen in all of the cases. So that would be very, very difficult. And so what I think this leads credence to is that we're going to see this is for the PS5, and that they're going to have this immediate backwards compatibility for any of the games that are major titles that are released in the last year of the PlayStation 4's being the top product. I think all of the games that are going to be released for that will be easily upgraded. And I think, and we've been hearing this, is that the devs have their hands on the Dev 5 kit, on the PlayStation 5 dev kit. So if that's the case, then they're able to make their games, go from one generation to the next with ease. And I think this is like one of the big things that'll lead to that. So it's a lot of, like, I don't want to get into too much of the technical talk because it's really boring, but basically it's like there's
I wouldn't understand.
Yeah. Basically, just to quickly summarize it up, the reason that you can't play backwards compatibility games is, like, on the PlayStation 2 for the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2 for the PlayStation 3, 3 for the 4, et cetera, is because the way that the way that the chips operate at a different speed, and then the way that the games that you'd be playing would be, essentially one of the biggest problems is the games that you're playing, the time code would be all messed up, and so you'd be like, everything would be moving either way too fast, which is usually the case around you, and you wouldn't be able to, like, play the game in that world, because the game world is running at 5 times the speed of what you're currently seeing in or what you're used to playing, and that just makes games unplayable. Because imagine like fighting a computer that's able to attack you in 5 times the speed of what they should normally be able to. You'd have no hope. There'd be nothing. You'd have to solely rely on oh no, I forgot the joke. Never mind. I was going to mention some like cheap trick that fighters use in fighting games, but yeah, never mind.
Actually, it was funny this way. Anyway, it was funny this way anyway. Well, the thing is that I love that I love this idea that I am not sure if they're going to be able to pull it off, because at this point, as I said, according to the patent, what we know is that we are doing the investigation to pull it out. Well, they are people that they are very smart. They have a huge amount of talent working for them, and I believe that they will find a solution. But this idea of being able to play since day zero games in the PlayStation 5 using the PlayStation 4 discs and with an upgrade patch, this sounds incredibly well. The only bad thing about that is that maybe you want to replay a game that you already started in the 4 and the game was out before the console was out, which means that you are going to start it all over again from the beginning, because you have to enjoy the whole game with the best graphics possible. Well, graphics and everything. And one of the things that I always said, I always said that Cyberpunk 2077 was a game for next generation. Yeah, I told you so. I've been saying that for months, and I'm so glad that they announced that officially. And one of the most important things in the Cyberpunk universe are crowds. Mike Pondsmith talks about other times that he tried to make a video game out of his Cyberpunk universe. And one of the flaws of the technologies at that time is that they weren't able to create the crowds of Night City. And crowd control is something that with the new generations of consoles is going to be way more powerful than it is in PlayStation 4. So I really hope that the PlayStation 5 comes out before Cyberpunk 2077, because obviously I'm going to start playing Cyberpunk as soon as I have a copy, and I'm going to pre-order it. So if I don't have the PlayStation 5, I'm going to have to play it with the PlayStation 4, and I am sure that I'm going to miss a lot of things that developers intended to have there in the game, because I'm sure that this game is thought for the best technology available.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that they're trying, that they want to do, is they want to get a heads up, and a lead on Microsoft as much as they can. They want to continue to be in the number one position, and they've had some extra competition from Nintendo this past year and a half that they didn't really expect. So there is some of that going on. So they wanna really blow it out of the park, and by doing so, the thing would be to create a new console a little sooner and involve some of this really truly next gen tech. And one of the things that AMD, which is what they use to make the PlayStation with, one of the things that we've heard just recently out of the GDC last week is that ray tracing is now a thing in AMD cards, and that ray tracing will become a big thing in graphics cards in the next few years going forward. If that's true, then that means that pretty much all of our GPUs are pointless. Like, well, not pointless, but it's like, for the games that use it, this is such a massive jump in technology that everybody's going to have to upgrade their cards eventually. But I don't think we'll see any games made with ray tracing for at least a little while yet. So, but my goodness, they did that. They did a little Star Wars short with the technology, and it's really good. Ray tracing is going to be, and I'm not going to get into it. Basically, it means that's what they make movie like CG out of, is that technology. is utilizing that technology. It's not just that, but they utilize that in making these like big Hollywood movies and CG scenes and stuff like that. They use it in Star Wars and all this stuff. So yeah, that's pretty good. If we're going to get that extra jump of technology, that means we're going to be seeing like graphics right now is going to take another big jump forward, and that's really, really cool. But AMD just announced this and announced that all their future cards are going to have this. So I mean, if they started to put together a the PlayStation 5s with this technology, that's definitely going to give them a sizable advantage over top of what Scorpio can currently offer and what they would be able to offer without that technology. So that's huge. And I would assume now that Scorpio would now have to play catch up, like considerably, to the PS5.
Because right now the only real advantage that the Scorpio has is power, but it's a power that can't use because they don't have the games. So if this generation, past generation, I was I was more inclined to use. Oh, I'm sorry, cat. Oh, I was an Xbox user. I also had the PlayStation 3, but I used the Xbox more. But this generation is Sony's generation. They know more. They seems to be at the head of the business, knowing that gamers want to game. That's why they buy the consoles for. So yes, technology is important, but you need something to use this technology with, which is games. So Microsoft, they are like, oh yes, we know that we missed that part on past E3, so I guess that new games need to come out. So what are they going to introduce? Borderlands 3. This is a joke. They are not introducing Borderlands 3.
I had this conversation the other day. Borderlands 3 is rumored to be out this year, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was delayed till next year, just because the size of the game and the studio. So I've heard this going around. I have no inside information on this, but I would assume that it probably needs another year in the oven. Just looking at the timing of it and the studio and the numbers would lean to suggest that I think we will see it out for next year probably, and they're a company that likes to talk about their games before they do it, unlike like Todd Howard or CDPR. They don't want to talk about it until they're looking at something that is 100% ready.
Yes, because also projects get delayed and this kind of things. Let me interrupt you, Saib. Just to let you know, viewers, I read every single comment that you write here. I maybe don't interrupt the conversation, and some of them I just store them here, or are being stored for me on the Discord to answer them later. But I do read every single comment that you put, and that I don't answer them doesn't mean that I don't read it. Just for you to know. Please go on, Sid.
I would try to, but unfortunately, I have a very active imagination, and so sometimes when people write things, I get a perfect mental image. So it's like that. Why is that guy got to be such a dickhead? And you're like, what's a dickhead? Walking, talking penis that is able of thought and communication. You're suddenly like, oh, mental image. Oh. I stole that from
that is totally sometimes when you have this kind of imagination. Hey, I have the same kind of imagination, and sometimes people talks about things and then my mind is like, no, please unsee.
Put it together, and you're like, oh, I wish I could take that back. That's not good. I was a blast from the past. I first heard that, but that's an accurate description. So anyways, as far as this goes, like for sure whether or not they'll have it, this makes sense financially. Now, pretty much every analyst and journalist worth their salt says that 2019 is the year to bet on Sony's new console, and that still may be true. But one of the big things that we looked at, that we confirmed, that we rolled over, is the fact that most of the time, in fact, we couldn't find an instance where this is not true, the dev kits would go out, and then less than a year later, the console would come out.
Oh yes, if you remember, let's go into make a summary here for viewers, because many times we take for granted that everybody has all the information, and yeah, it's like when I said that Adam Badowski, people like, who the fuck is Adam Badowski? Because I assume everybody has the information. So on past generation dev kits were a past generation of Sony, PlayStation 4, dev kits were delivered to developers 8 months before the games were out and the console was out. That is the basic information you need to understand, that the PlayStation 5 dev kits were released on January. Important to note.
Mm-hmm. And that's considering that there was 0 backwards compatibility. So if you were working on a game for the PlayStation 3 and you got the PlayStation 4 dev kit that week, you would have to go back and tweak your engine from the ground up and change a lot of stuff and then you'd have to optimize it completely all over again. And that process can take upwards of like 6 to 8 months for certain games. And going back, and that's why game companies don't just, chuck out like, oh hey, we're gonna make that's why game companies don't make backwards compatible versions of their video games.
Wait a second. Marian de Sintra, what's Ready Player One? Oh my god, you don't know what's Ready Player One? Holy shit, there's someone in the universe who doesn't know who's Ready Player One, and I don't say that to mock on you. I mean, now you have the opportunity to see something new that is amazing. It's a book. It's a book that is like the mashup of nerdity ever, and they made a film that's very different from the book, but it's totally amazing, and you really should watch it because it's amazing. It's for nerds, it's for incredibly nerds, it's for hardcore nerds. Different from the book, I know. Yes, please go on. Sorry to interrupt you with that, but I just got excited. I saw the film the other day, and I went out of the cinema thinking, oh my god, thank you, Steven Spielberg, you did a film just for me. And usually I am one of those type of elitist people that when I read the book, I want a film that is like the book. Exactly like the book. And in this case, it was totally different, but it was different in a good way. It was surprising because, well, it's a film for kids. Don't expect like insane turn of events anywhere. It's a movie for kids, for 30, 40-year-old kids. References are everywhere. It's super funny. I loved it. I'll make a review, a spoilers-free review about that shortly, but yeah. I was so excited watching the film, and I was so excited because lately all the nerd franchises that are going out are so boring. I like the Last Jedi, but I wasn't incredibly happy to watch it. Lately, the Marvel films are not spectacular, and yeah, this is a nerd film that I absolutely enjoyed. Like I was watching The Goonies again, being 8 years old, but in nerd. Yeah, don't apologize. I mean, not knowing something sometimes is great. I mean, I would sometimes I believe I would give anything, not anything, I mean, it's a way of saying it, to be able to rediscover The Lord of the Rings, to rediscover Star Wars, to rediscover Cyberpunk, because it's something that I already know, and I have not the chance to rediscover it again and feel the same things that I felt the first time that I watched this or read this or whatever. And when you don't know something, then you have the opportunity to watch it for the first time. And it's so exciting. And it is something that I always say to the people that know nothing about the lore of Cyberpunk 2077. You can learn about it for the first time. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Cyber. I just got excited. Please go on.
The one thing in the show, in the movie that I was hoping to see is a reference to Matt 6, but I guess it's not big enough yet. Let me know in the comments if you know what Matt 6 is when it comes to VR.
What is Matt 6?
Matt 6, you have to look it up. So I won't spoil it because it's you go back and you watch the older videos on it first, and you kind of gear up to to the latest videos on it, and yeah, you'll see it. But yeah, as far as Well, that segues really good. So the other thing the PlayStation is really trying to double down on is their VR tech, because they know that VR tech is improving, and if they can get it to the point where it's really starting to improve, that's really what they're trying to do. And so we're seeing this, especially with this movie, and with the way that VR has kind of like integrated itself, is they're going to try and continue to boost that as a technology, because it's one of the things that people really want to see. And it's interesting because it's interesting because uh oh, okay, perfect. It's interesting because the way that they're trying to encourage it to grow is they're aiming it for more of these, like, they're realizing that some of the social aspects of VR is what people really enjoy the most. So expect to see more multiplayer games, and for that they have to upgrade the tech. They can't have it as is. So they're going to have to really boost the technology behind it and make it work. So I'll leave that there, and I think we'll take a quick break.
I can't remember what was the last thing that the last person that made this question. I remember that I was replaying this question, answering this question, and Detroit. The thing is that I plan on streaming Detroit as soon as it's released. And actually, it's going to be a very interesting game to play, because I believe that I believe, no, I already played the demo. You have to make decisions. I don't remember, though, if you had a specific time for that decisions, because obviously the stream has some lag, and it takes some time to reach you, and then it takes some time me to reach your comments. But if it's possible, I would love to make a stream where you help me decide what to do in the game. I tried the demo at the Gamescom in Barcelona. I really hope that the demo doesn't represent the game 100%, because you weren't able to invert the axis, because I'm an old style gamer, so I played with a y-axis inverted, and you couldn't do that in the demo. Yeah, I suppose I take for granted that this is going to be in the game. And at this convention, they also had a escape room based on Detroit Become Human. It was really funny. And I was at this convention streaming. I was invited by YouTube to make a stream there. I was streaming Destiny. I can't remember what was I streaming. And I wanted to walk around. I was on my own, and there were a couple of very funny guys. I was like, hey, can I go there with you? It's okay, let's go. And it was really funny. And yes, I'm going to stream Detroit as soon as it's out. And before Detroit is out, I was thinking about doing streams every Sunday, and I'm yet deciding what game am I going to do. Most probably, I would like to play on PlayStation, because I have a 65 inches television. And it's hard to compete with that, and I would love to enjoy the games that I'm playing what I am streaming. And this will be before I need to practice, because obviously when Cyberpunk 2077 is out, I want to play the game, and I'm going to stream it, and I'm going to pray that CD Projekt is going to give me a copy of the game, an early copy of the game, to be able to show to all of you. That would be amazing if it happened. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, I'm the mini-me of channels. I probably going to reach 10,000 in a month or something like that. That's absolutely nothing for having a YouTube channel. So I don't think that they're going to think of me in sending one of these early copies for YouTubers. So if I don't have one of those copies, anyway, I'm going to pre-order the game. So I'll have it as soon as possible, and I will show you as soon as possible. And this way I will be able to annoyingly comment about the differences with the lore, which is something that we always do, the nerds. And yes, going back to the building. Madqueen, you got to play Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Yeah, I played that 2 times. And the funny thing about that, this is a small story, a funny thing about that is that I was playing Deus Ex, then Horizon Zero Dawn went out, and I was about to finish Deus Ex, and I had it. And when I physically received the game of Horizon Zero Dawn, I was playing Deus Ex, and I said, okay, I will stop here and I will play Horizon. Then I beat Horizon, I came back to Mankind Divided, I started playing again, and I completely forgot how to play it. I mean, it's something it's muscular memory, and you have this learning curve at the beginning of the game. If the way you control the game is different to the game you're playing, it's like, oh, okay, I don't remember. I'm going to start the game all over again. And when I did the second round of the game, I realized that at my first round, I only needed 5 minutes more to beat the game. I was only one final boss away. And I didn't know that. So I played two times. Serious question, Ali Manhoff. Serious question, CD Projekt said Cyberpunk 2077 will also be available on the next generation of consoles like PS5 and Xbox 2. Should I wait for the next generation or just buy for PC? It depends on how you like playing. On PC, you're going to have mods. And yeah, I believe that Cybe is going to be able to answer this question better than me because I just don't play on PC. I don't have a lot of experience in that. Cybe, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. When it comes to honestly, like I'm a huge PC player. I very rarely will play on the consoles, and that's primarily because the consoles, like a couple of my friends early on had like the early consoles, and they kept dying like crazy. You remember how quickly the first generation Xbox would die if that thing was not like perfectly air conditioned.
This is something that I remember on E3. I mean, people were absolutely hyped to see the specs, to see the power, to see everything, and they were presenting like, oh, this is going to have this, wow, we have to have this, wow, it's going to have cooling, and I was like, wow, that's the feature I was waiting for, fucking cooling.
I know, right? And it's the fact that it took them so long. It's just like, you know, face palm all the way. It's so dumb. But I mean, aside from the fact that computers are vastly superior, like PCs are vastly superior on power, and they really truly are. The other thing that you have to remember is that if you're any bit of a I this is not a hit against people who use consoles, but if you're any bit of a like a high-end nerd, you want to like get into the game and you want to tweak stuff and mod stuff and stuff like that. And I am a huge mod.
I'm not going to allow you to say that. That's a very specific kind of nerd. Just because you don't want to tweak games doesn't mean that you are not a nerd. Not the same thing.
That's what I meant.
Let's not confuse terms.
That's why I said it's not a hit in general against other gamers. But for me specifically, I am a modder, and I get into the root files of games, and I start messing with them like early on. And we have I'll do this announcement here because it's pretty small, but we have a massive Fallout 4 mod coming very soon. We announced it a very long time ago, and we ran into some issues in its early creation, and then we ended up switching it up when the tools came out. So it's been delayed considerably, and a lot of people have thought that we were just not coming out with it, but we are coming out with it, and it is truly amazing, and you will be floored by the mod work that we are going to release. So this is very exciting. It's probably, I'm not going to announce a date yet, but the fact that it's really close to being done. So
Cybe,
yeah.
You forgot to mention the game.
Which game?
You're talking about the mod?
Oh, no, I said Fallout 4.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I thought that you forgot to mention the game. I'm sorry. I thought that you forgot.
No, it'll be for Fallout 4, and it'll be out hopefully sometime in the very near future. I think.
Is it going to be available for PlayStation? Because the only copy I have of Fallout 4 is on PlayStation.
We are not working with Bethesda on it, so it won't be released to the consoles yet. We might get it released to the consoles later. We'll see. It's a really long and arduous process, and we are changing some of their core stuff, and they don't like it when you do that. So yeah.
There are several things. And also on PlayStation, you can only work with assets that are in the game. You know, Sony is a Japanese company that rules itself by the laws of copyright of Japan. And it was funny when people was complaining about this thing about the assets. It's like, hello, Japanese company, copyright laws. They want to make sure that everything that you use is copyright free or belongs to the game. So they decided, well, it has to belong to the game. And if you have things in your mod that doesn't belong to the game, I won't be able to play it because I only own Fallout 4 copy for PlayStation 4. And
well, we'll do a let's play. There's actually a few people that'll do let's play.
yeah, I also have Wolfenstein 2, which is the tech demo of Fallout 5. So the only copy of Fallout I have for PlayStation, and that was a bad joke. I know it was a bad joke, but yeah, Wolfenstein 2. It looks like the tech demo of Fallout 5. Brogetter RDX asks, Madqueen, what console are you going to play Cyberpunk 2077 on? Well, PlayStation 5 if I have the chance. And by I have the chance, I mean that the PlayStation 5 is out before the game, because obviously I am not going to wait. Madqueen, will this game lag on the first PlayStation 4 and Xbox One? No, it won't lag, but it will have less features. It will have worse graphics, it will have smaller crowds. I am sure that they are skilled enough. The technicians working at the project are skilled enough to avoid the game from lagging. But that doesn't mean that you are going to have, obviously, the similar features that you would have with better hardware. What do you mean it's a tech demo? A tech demo is a playable demo that is done of the games, usually to show for Howard. You have several types of tech demo. You have the vertical slice. The vertical slice is a type of demo that is a small portion of the game that has the final look, that it looks like how the game needs to look like at the end of the production. So every time that you have a question about what you are doing follows the vision, well, you know, the developer. Every time the developer has a question, if the thing that they are developing follows the vision, they go back to this vertical slice to check if what they are doing follows the style of the game. And then you have to take the tech demos that you sent to test the engine. And yeah, we have a tech demo that was sent to Sony. That Legacy talked about. I would kill to see this one. Definitely playing Cyberpunk 2077 on PC. Well, as I told before, I have a 65 inches television and I have an average computer screen. So would you guess where I'm going to play? And obviously, I'm not going to move the computer from one side of the house to the other, even though I live in the Batcave. My flat is very small, but I use the computer for working because, yeah, you watch videos every day. So I use the computer every day. I cannot be moving it. So I'm going to play on console. It's more comfortable for me. And we were talking about PlayStation 5 and the announcements made on E3. Did we miss to mention anything about this? Sype?
I don't think so. I think so. What was it exactly?
Well, I believe that we told you that they are working on the backward compatibility to be able to play the games on PlayStation 5 with PlayStation 5 features and graphics using PlayStation 4 discs with a patch.
Oh yes, yeah, that's in there. Sorry, I thought you were talking about something else. No, that's the information that I have gotten my hands on. That is, I would say it's one of these things where I think it's definitely for sure what they're aiming for. I don't know how it'll come out, right? Because there's always that chance that somebody will change something. There's always a chance that some of the studios will not sign up for this because they do want that second term sale, that they want to put out the game the first time and then they want to put out that game the second time, and they want to do it with some more features and stuff like that, and they want to get that extra level of sales. So that's something where it's like, don't necessarily assume that that's going to be the hard line like goal, but rather it's going to be a suggestion by a lot of these, because a lot of these companies are going to be told by Sony, it's like, hey, look, we want you to do this. We'll give you a little bit more of the cut of the sales, but the goal is to take over the studio, or take over the market share before thinking about what the studio wants. So they want you to buy their next PlayStation, and they want you to do that as soon as possible, and then they want you to keep on with that. So any choice that they do, any choice of games that they bring on, if it encourages that's good for them. There will of course be outliers. There's always outliers, and so there might be a few games that prevent that, but I suspect strongly that they'll end up wording that into their agreements down the road. So makes the most amount of sense. Yeah.
And actually, all of this is just a plan they have. I mean, I have a serious doubt that they are going to pull everything off for this E3. Because, well, I don't know, just looking at the time they've been working on it, I am not an engineer, but they are talking about experiments like they were a fact, and I believe they are positive they're going to pull it off, but I'm not going to believe it until I see it. I mean, that's the information we have, and all this information points to a presentation this E3. And yes, take it with a pinch of salt, and not because this is a leak. Because honestly, I am not sure that Sony is going to make it. I mean, that's my opinion. I am not sure that Sony is going to make it that soon. I may be wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's really hard to guesstimate the proper response and that, because it's still so close and yet still so far away at the same time. It's like we can take a lot of information, but until we know for sure, it's like you don't know how some of the pre-early access information you get is going to feed into it or not. Now, obviously, there's some other things that I've got my hands on that I'm not mentioning. I'm not mentioning that stuff because it's harder to confirm some of that stuff. And a lot of this is a lot of little things hinting at this stuff, and you put in a lot of little things together, and you can kind of get a better picture of the process. But yeah, I'm hedging my bets at this point. I really think that they're going to announce the PlayStation 5 for this year. We knew that it was going to come next year for sure, absolutely hands down. One thing it's not going to do is it's not going to come in 2020. That is far too far away. That means that their PlayStation Pro will have almost as long of a life as the PlayStation 4, the early package. And the rate at which, especially if this ray tracing is true, if ray tracing is true, expect by this time next year for that to be featured in a lot of games, and then from by 2020, it's going to become basically standardized. Now, if that's true, it's that's technology moving at a really, really rapid rate, and you don't want to wait to upgrade, to have your upgrade be 2 generations of advances behind. That's just not something that a lot of companies do.
That goes with the question that Brandon Lee asked. What about Cyberpunk on the PS4 Pro? Will it run the full settings? It's sad if it doesn't happen. What is one thing that Sony said a lot of times and people tend to forget is that PlayStation 4 is only PlayStation 4 Pro is only slightly better than PlayStation 4. I mean, the jump between the Xbox and the Scorpio is way bigger. It's way bigger. And the PlayStation Pro, the 4 Pro, it doesn't have a native 4K, for instance, doesn't even have 4K. If it's not native, it's not 4K. I mean, if they call it rescaled, that's a beautiful way of putting that it's not 4K. I don't know why you're contemplating this as a feature when it's not a feature. And the console is only slightly better than the PlayStation 4. And I don't believe that a game that is on the power of the Scorpio is going to run at the same power on the Pro, because we're not talking about the same type of consoles. The Scorpio is a 40% more powerful than the Pro. That's a huge jump. That's a huge jump. That's one of the reasons why I always say that Sony cannot sleep in the laurels, because if Microsoft starts to put good games out, they are dominating the hardware part. If they dominate the software, the games, Sony is sold. If Microsoft has good games, Sony is sold. So they need to do something, and they need to do something now.
Yeah, you got to remember that this is a constant battle between these two big corporations, and now and Nintendo gets in there every once in a while too, but this is a big fight, and Sony is severely limited in the sense that they only have that. Like, Microsoft has the fact that they make, Windows, and the fact that they have, the fact that they're this absolutely massive company. Their war chest right now is like $250 billion. It's $250 billion. That's their war chest. That's not money that's hanging around for like long-term sustainability, or drawing back on reserves to fund a crash period, or to weather a financial downturn. That's their war chest. That's money that they have to actively go after their competition exclusively. That's insane. Like, that is legitimately insane that they have that much money just hanging around. PlayStation does not have that. Sony's been in a lot of trouble. They've sold off a lot of their stuff to stay mainstream, to stay concurrent. And you have to remember that is like, in the world of big business, this is a life and death struggle for you to stay at the top every other day. So, bearing that in mind, we look at what they do, and we look at how they react and how they have to react. And the one thing that Sony does not want to do again, because their numbers show this, is they do not want a head-to-head. Again, if they can prevent a head-to-head again, it means that they'll pick up an extra 5 million in console sales. They'll pick up an extra 5 million units sold in console sales. That's what they want. They don't want to wait until the next Xbox and their next PlayStation is releasing in the same year. They don't want to do that. Microsoft's okay with doing that because they don't really care. Their money is made off of the services, and off of the way that the Xbox functions as a unit. It's not necessarily made from the competitive sales that happen when you have two consoles being put on sale the same day, and you as a consumer is walking in, you have to choose between them. In that kind of fight, that's called a battle of attrition, and Microsoft will always win that war because they're bigger. Now, if Sony was the bigger company, if Sony was worth way more than Microsoft was as a whole, then they could win that war because it's a battle of attrition. But in this case, they don't want that battle of attrition again. So they have to release this year or next year at the absolute latest. Because if they wait till 2020, there's a good chance that that's when Microsoft's next console is going to be out. It's going to be 2020, but there's also a really good chance that it'll be out in 2019. So if they get this out at 2018, that's the moment that they have to do it. And if they can't hit that, then they're going to run into a wall when it comes to this battle of attrition again. And they're going to keep losing that battle of attrition. Yet now, yes, they've really done well in this last console generation, really, really well. But at the end of the day, they only have a handful of IPs, and their reputation and their the players which support them and actively like go out of their way to support them. But you can't trust that your business can function on just that. You have to develop more than one edge, and if given an option, of course you're going to take an advantage that somebody else doesn't have. Like, that's just the way big business works.
Well, if it wasn't for games, Sony would have already lost this generation.
Oh yeah. If they didn't have the big title games that they put out last at the beginning of the console generation, if they didn't have those, they would have failed pretty hard pretty hard. And the other reason why they succeeded so much is that Xbox literally walked on stage and stabbed themselves multiple times in the gut. Like that's the only reason why they came out ahead in this fight, because they were the underdog when it came to this current generation, and they managed to pull out a win. Now they are now they're the big person. Now Microsoft's the underdog, and Microsoft is really trying really hard. Now, yeah, they're still not perfect, and they still make a lot of really dumb mistakes, but they're trying really hard, and all they need is that perfect title to come out. Sea of Thieves was not it, but it was a really close step in that direction. Like the fact that the game is so beautiful, and there's some big issues with the game in general, but they hit that ball a lot harder than people were thinking they could.
Yes, I mean, Sea of Thieves can be a great game. Cuphead was a great game, but we are talking about games that they don't use the power that the console has.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's like, sheesh, guys, come on, come up with something big and good. And this is why they're potentially looking at buying EA and potentially looking at buying Ubisoft and some other companies. Now, I think their only chance is going to be Microsoft will only be able to probably buy EA, and I think that's probably if they do that in a really good market. There's a really good way that they can do that and kind of change the way a lot of is going on. Like, imagine right now if today Microsoft bought out EA and tomorrow they announced that they're bringing back the Mass Effect series, and they're putting they're putting in they're putting in $10 billion into that franchise, and they're going to make the best game that we've ever seen, and they're also going to do this and do that and all this stuff that you wanted, and they would have a large majority of support from the gaming community already, just because they promised to do that, and they actively are investing in that. So that would be huge if they did that. So the fact that they can makes Sony very nervous. If Microsoft wanted to, they could buy out a whole bunch of studios that are working on games and then turn them exclusive to Xbox, and they could say, well, how much were you expecting to make? Well, we were expecting to make $500 million. Oh, okay, how about we give you $750 million? So we're doubling up, your lowest estimate on top of what your best estimate is. It's like, yeah, we can do that if we wanted to. So yeah, there's this war brewing, and of course it's always brewing, and of course the companies are always push back and forth, but
I really hope they don't, that it doesn't end up in a corporate war. Chun, chun, chun. Going back to the question,
which can happen.
It can happen. Well, actually, I have my I am the opinion that the corporate wars already are here, but I don't want to discuss politics here. I mean real politics. I'm all discussing cyberpunk politics. Aiden Class asks, what limitations on Cyberpunk 2077 comfortable with as a fan that otherwise would be present in the original games, since Imagination does not have a development budget? There is a very interesting sentence that the other day Neil Gaiman said on Twitter, because they announced that they were going to adapt one of his best novels called Good Omens, that I strongly suggest to any of you because it's really, really funny. And the series that I'm so hyped about, one of the characters is going to be David Tennant. That is a British actor that I take for granted that everybody knows as the 10th Doctor. And he said, well, this book was written by Neil Gaiman and the late Terry Pratchett. And he said that when you read a book and when you expect something to be adapted from a book, you need to understand that when you read it, you create in your head your own canon. And the canon in your head can be different to the canon in the head of the person next to you who you gave the book to read it. And obviously it's different to the canon in the head of the person that is creating it. So sometimes it's not about a matter of budget. It's a matter that the canon of one person is very different to the canon of another person. And I don't believe that they paid a lot of attention to limitations in sense of budget. The cash is flowing thanks to The Witcher 3. They have a lot of investors. They have a lot of money from Polish government. They have a lot of money to develop Cyberpunk in general. And I really don't believe that budget is a problem for them. If any, they have the limitations of technology. That, well, if they are developing for next generation, it's going to be less limited. But the thing is that I have my own canon in my head, and Adam Badowski has his canon in his head. And he's the one directing the game, not me. His canon is the one that's going to prevail in the game. And probably it's different to mine. And in Cyberpunk, there are a lot of things that were open to interpretation. For instance, when you read about the net, I always thought that you moved in the net like you were swimming or you were flying or floating. But this was open to interpretation. Maybe Heath believes that you are walking. Or I don't know. Also, there was a rumor inside the lore. It was a rumor inside the lore that there were aliens in the net. And you can believe they are, or you can believe they are not. This belongs more to the canon in your head than to the limitations on budget. And another thing is that the canon is really huge. I mean, you have Night City, but then you have Europe, then you have Crystal Palace, that is Orbital Station, and you have more ways where you can set the game on. And I believe that as Cyberpunk is going to be more than one game, I believe that they are going to use these locations in future games. But we know that this next game is going to be in Night City. But the thing is, how much of Night City are they going to use? For instance, it is canon that Night City has 3 levels. Are they going to build 3 levels? Maybe they're not. Maybe they think that they don't need 3 levels because the upper level is the posh one. And you're going to play like an edge runner, and maybe for the sake of the story, you don't need to go up there, but I would love to see it. Or I don't know. The thing is that is a difference in canons in the head, and I really hope that the canon that is in the head of Adam Badowski, director of the game, is close to mine. And even if it's not, I know that I'm going to play it. This is one of the things that I am most excited about, is knowing that the people that are developing the game are people that love the lore. I mean, they are not just people that think that is interesting and they may pull a game out of it. They really love the game. They played the game a lot. They love it. And I believe that that's the important part. That's the part that is going to make that if I find a thing that is really different from my head lore, I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to respect that because I know they love the lore. And they didn't do it because they didn't understand the lore, but because they understood it that way. That for me is completely different. I know it's difficult to know what goes on in the head of someone, to know the true motivations. But even Mike Pondsmith said that he was shocked how huge of nerds the people at CD Projekt were, and how much they knew the lore. They even knew things that Mike Pondsmith didn't remember. So yes, I'm going to respect their vision, even if it's different to mine, because I know they are going to do it with love, and I believe that's all that I need to know to be sure that they're going to do a great game.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, Molsine says, the problem for all of us is that CDPR don't show us nothing, and we have hype. We trust in them, yeah, but they sometimes will show us something. Well, as I said before, is it difficult to read the mind of someone, even more of someone that you don't have in front of you, and even more of someone that you don't know? So, the only thing that we know is that they are not showing the game. What we don't know is the real reason behind that. Maybe they were so tired of the backlash that they had to stand at the end of The Witcher 3 that they thought that they better have the, mouth shut up this entire process. Or maybe there's a marketing reason behind that. Maybe they don't want people, to stress developers with comments about things they are developing. I have no idea what is the reason behind that. I would be lying if I told you that I know. I have no idea. But what I do know is that there is a reason behind this, because there's always a reason behind everything. And the fact that you don't know what is this reason, it doesn't mean that this reason doesn't make sense. And we will eventually know, and we will eventually see. And meanwhile, we can just enjoy the lore and read Mike Pondsmith and read Pat Cadigan and William Gibson and read things about Cyberpunk, and that's we need to have patience, and we're going to be rewarded for that patience, I believe. How did CDPR got backlash? Well, The Witcher 3 got delayed several times, a lot. Got delayed a lot. In fact, in the teaser of Cyberpunk 2077, it says in a secret message that they wanted to, well, the idea was to release the game on 2015. That was the year that The Witcher was released, because The Witcher was supposed to be released much earlier. And the fans went crazy, and there was a lot of backlash on social media complaining that The Witcher 3 was so delayed, and well, they just had to release the game just to avoid any more backlash. And fortunately, they had to release the game at a point where the game was absolutely was already fantastic. But well, if they didn't, if they shouldn't have, if they had time to develop it even more, the game would have been even better. I don't know, and maybe that's the reason behind the Cyberpunk thing. I don't know. I mean, that's speculation. I repeat, I have no idea that what goes inside the heads of the CEOs of CD Projekt. I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question here that I'm missing. Someone is asking about the grants. I missed the question. I am so sorry. I got so excited. I would rather have a game delayed than unfinished game releases like we have been seeing recently. Yeah, well, or not that recently. I always complain about No Man's Sky. That at this point it seems is a good game. But the thing is that if you start playing the game and you need half a year to have a patch that gives you half of the things that you were promised, while you have the other half that are not there yet, and then a complete year when you already are all fed up with the game and you don't want to play it anymore, and if at that point you have all the patches and all the things that you were promised, it's a little late. Ghost 777. So when's the PlayStation 5 going to come out then? Will Cyberpunk be released on old gen first, then re-released on PlayStation 5 like GTA did? Well, that's a theory. Okay, PlayStation 5 is going to be out either this year or next. They can't release it later. They just can't. They will die as a company. So it will come out this year or next. I believe, and it's a theory that I have no information to support that, but I believe that the game is going to come out before PlayStation 5 is out. Volcano Geek, CTPR just recently opened a third studio to work on Cyberpunk. Yes, we have the people at the Wrocław studio, and there's an Academy Award nominee there. There's people that are really. I mean, I was looking. I was investigating the people that was working on the Wrocław studio, and holy shit, the level is high.
Yeah, they're like really, really good there, aren't they?
Yes, they are amazing, and usually it's not that I deeply investigate all developers. Like, okay, let's see who is in this, who is in that. But sometimes, yeah, some couple of names that people involved, I'm like, well, what did this person do before? But in this case, I completely investigated them, and I was like, holy shit, the level is so high. These people are killing machines. And I am so glad they are working on Cyberpunk. I don't know what it is they were working on. I'm sorry they had to interrupt that. I don't know if they're going to work it again in the future. I am so sorry. But holy shit, I am so glad these people is in the Cyberpunk boat. And I'm sure that Adam Kicinski and Marcin Iwinski are glad too. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired them. There's a reason for everything. Brandon Lee says, do you think all the weapons from the Black Hands weapon listing are coming? How about the gear and implants? How much of implants, weapons, gear, and vehicles are you expecting to see? Well, last question, a lot. Then the rest of questions. All of this is going to be upgraded. We know as a fact because it was told. I was going to say thousands of years ago. Every time that I make these kind of exaggerations, people think that I'm literal. Obviously not. 2012. I mean 2012, but a lot of year ago, we were already told that everything that was based on technology was going to suffer a revision. Was going to be revised because some things were a little outdated. Fax machines, for instance, or the Sega Atari that was the console to play braindance at your home. So how many? Well, a fucking lot. I mean, a huge amount of them. How? I don't believe they are going to take 100% of the things of the lore. And anyway, if you know the lore, you had these beautiful drawings, but not for all of the things. Some of them you had to mentally invent how did they look like. And if we are not told the name of the weapon, we are not going to recognize the weapon because it doesn't have the image along with it in the source books. But yeah, it's going to be funny because there are some of them that are pretty famous, and like and I know I'm going to cry like a baby the moment that I see an Arasaka 20 about a 20 barrel, because it was one of my favorite weapons, a 20 millimeters cannon made by Arasaka. I mean, I use it as a side weapon, and that was a joke. Obviously, that was a joke. Well, I believe that we're going to leave it here because we've been on, well, it would have been on for 2 hours if it wasn't for the half an hour at the beginning. And yes, thank you very much for coming. Last question, okay. Do you think character creation will involve biosculpting, or do you think it will be an option? No. You don't need to biosculpt yourself to create a character. You're going to biosculpt yourself later in the game, most probably. Because it's typical that you can change your appearance, your gender, your skin color. You want to be blue, you want to be pink. I don't know. You want to be whatever. Then you're going to have this option. And we're going to leave it here. I wanted the cat to say goodbye to you, but I'm sorry. She's so comfortable here. Look at her. Yes, with Corpse Bride and the Patrick Bateman, and I'm going to change that, but it's a Robocop, yes. So, well, folks, thanks for watching. Thank you very much for being with us in this stream. Starting next week, hopefully next week, because I still need to solve a couple of technical issues. I'm going to be streaming games. I didn't decide what game. I am between Mankind Divided and Prey. Why Prey? Because I totally love the game. I like it better than Deus Ex. I mean, I absolutely adore Prey, and I am so shocked that the game wasn't incredibly successful. Wasn't as successful as good is the game, because it's amazing. So I believe that is going to be either Mankind Divided or Prey, and why not sure that it's Prey? Because I don't have the copy, and the friend of mine that has the copy is like just had a new girlfriend, and there is no way that I can see him. Yeah, sorry for being so honest in here. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Sibserian, for joining us to discuss this.
You're welcome. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to our Triple S League channel, you can do so. You can help push us over our next big hurdle. That'd be great. And this restream will be up there. So if you're listening to this on the restream, then you're probably already here. In which case, thanks.
Yes, the stream is going to be on the channel of the Triple S League. If you are so kind, Subsidian, can you please put the link to your channel in the comments so people know where to go to find the video in case they just jumped in and missed the rest of the stream. Thanks for watching. You're lovely. See you in next videos. And you need to watch today's video that is more or less the same that we discussed in here. So nothing new. See you in next videos. Stay being amazing. And let's hope if we see this prank, it's 9 p.m. in here. Where is my prank? Set the project. I'm so disappointed. Well, not really. Not that much. Just a little.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and sub. Write your most profound thoughts in the comments down below, and then check out some of these other videos.
What if it rains?
Find the link to our Discord server and other important stuff in the description below.